Well, hello. I'm Martin Green from the University of New South Wales, Sydney. I'd like to take this opportunity to congratulate JA Solar on achieving its 15th year anniversary. Our lab has had a lot of contact with JA over those 15 years. So not only has JA been one of the most successful companies in commercialising the PERC solar cell technology that I invented back in 1983, but also some of my former staff and students actually were right there at the start in that they helped found JA Solar back in 2005. This chart just shows the early makeup of the company. So JA was formed from three companies that formed a joint venture. One of them was Jinglong, and that's where the J comes from. The other two were Australian companies, so Australian PV Science and Australian Solar Developments, and the A comes from Australia. And then these two companies contributed the solar technology to the joint venture. So that's like also originated the solar within JA Solar. In charge of the first company was Dr. Shimin Dai. So Shimin was one of my PhD students who had done a very good PhD thesis on improving solar cell efficiency, silicon cell efficiency. So she was an expert in how to make efficient devices, and I guess helped JA get off to a good start in terms of being on top of the field in that area. So Shimin actually became JA Solar's first Chief Technical Officer, or CTO, holding that position from 2005 to 2007 during the critical stage when the manufacturing lines and the cell processing was established at JA. And the other company, one of the major players was Ted Spidlak. Ted had worked with me for more than 20 years. He was in charge of procurement and commissioning of equipment for our laboratory and went on to do the same thing for many of the solar companies that were established around the same time within China. So Ted actually procured and installed the equipment for JA's first production line, and here you can see him not on the 15th anniversary of the company, but close to the first anniversary, inspecting some of the equipment in the plant room. Another member of that second company was Sammy Yang. So Sammy was another Australian, but he was Chief Executive Officer, JA's first, from 2005 to 2009. So the company listed on NASDAQ in April of 2007, and you can see both Shimin and Sammy here in the front row, playing a major role in those events. That was a very important step for JA in that it injected a huge amount of money into the company from US investors, and this helped JA get up to speed very quickly in terms of manufacturing capacity and so on, and helped it establish its place as one of the world's major manufacturers. My own lab had a much earlier history. Some 30 years earlier it was established, and this is a photo of me with my first PhD student. My hair was a lot longer then. I was a lot younger, and also it was a lot blacker. But we were researching, what might these days probably be called heterojunction context solar cells. So these MIS, tunneling structures, metal insulator, semiconductor tunneling devices. And we did quite well with these, particularly in terms of improving the voltage output from cells. So NASA Lewis had launched a program within the US to try and improve silicon cell efficiency by improving these voltages. And a number of US companies were contractors to that program. But we sort of took them all on and did quite well, as you can see here, increasing the highest output voltage from a silicon cell from about 640 millivolts up to close to 700 millivolts. Along the way, we experimented with this structure here, where we've replaced the metal contact with doped polysilicon. So we thought the durability of the metal contacts mightn't be all that great because at high temperatures they would react with the oxide and reduce it, whereas polysilicon was going to be more inert in that role. So we explored these structures here at the end of 1981 and got some good results. So outside our group, we got world record voltages using what is now known as the Topcon approach. So these were the first results from Topcon, and they were quite good, even though they were about 10 millivolts behind the best we could do with metal contacts at that stage, but very good results considering the limited amount of work that had gone into it at that point in time. We published these results in 1983. So this publication, I believe, from what we've been able to see in the literature, is the first to report the Topcon idea, tunneling polysilicon contacts, and also the first to report experimental results using that approach. So that might prove very important in photovoltaics, along with the PERC technology that I'll talk about soon. With these high voltages, we were in a good position to improve the efficiency of the cells. And we did that in September of 1983, where we made our first 18% efficient cell, independently confirmed. And this was reported in the paper shown. This is a team that made the first 18% efficient cells, and amongst them is Ted Spidlak, who, as I mentioned earlier, was one of the founders of JA Solar. So Ted was as I said, in charge of procurement and commissioning of equipment for our research team. Another big thing happened in 1983. I invented the PERC solar cell. I drew this sketch below me and included it in 2 reports that I prepared at the end of 1983. So the drawing is hand-drawn, as you might be able to tell from the way everything's misaligned, but couldn't do a drawing like that in a couple of minutes like you can these days. Each of those shading lines at the bottom there is done by hand. So it took a while to do them. But I drew that diagram and included it into these 2 reports. And we worked on trying to implement that structure over the coming 5 years. And in 1988, we got our best. We started getting good results and reported our first world record with that technology in 1989. So this is the first paper in the literature talking about PERC solar cell that mentions that technology, and we demonstrated 22.8% efficiency using it. This chart here just shows the evolution of silicon cell efficiency over the last 80 years, but starts in the 1940s with work done at Bell Labs. So most of the work up to the 1970s, or most of the records shown there, were achieved by US groups. But in the 1980s, my team started taking over. So in 1983, we got our first record, as I mentioned, 18% efficiency, the lowermost red dot you can see there. And then by 1985, we had achieved our first 20% efficient silicon cell. That was regarded as the 4-minute mile of photovoltaics, something out there that was going to be very difficult to achieve, if ever. But using the PERC, we took efficiency to 25% efficiency by 2008. The first commercial sales of PERC cells were not by JA Solar, although they've been selling a lot of them recently. But they were by Unisearch Limited, the commercial arm of my university. We made 20,000 solar cells, PERC solar cells in our laboratory, and through Unisearch sold them for solar car racing. So that was a big support for our research, the money we earned for doing that. But this is the Honda car that won the race, but the 1996 World Solar Challenge is a solar car race across Australia from Darwin to Adelaide, about 3,000 kilometres, so quite a trying race. So we supplied half-cut PERC cells for the Honda team, and we also used shingling. So some quite modern ideas incorporated into this 1996 car. We also used some of the cells to make a PV module, and that was certified as 23% efficient, which is probably still one of the higher efficiency PERC modules that have been made to date. We guaranteed Honda that every cell we supplied to their car would be over 24% efficient. So that was probably one of the highest efficiency batches of PERC that have been made up to present, but I'm sure in the future we're going to see JA and other companies exceed that 24% efficiency mark, with the improvements that they make to the PERC technology. Honda did very well in the race. It won it and set a new race world record. So that's was the first commercial use of cells. So that's a brief outline of the history of my contact with JA over the last 15 years. I'd like to take the opportunity to again congratulate JA on reaching their 15th year anniversary, and all the staff as well. And I wish the company and staff all the best for the coming 15 years, which I'm sure is going to be just as exciting for photovoltaics as the last 15 have been. So bye for now.